Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please be respectful of my guests. While I am a monogamist, it has been a very enlightening conversation talking about non monogamy. Please don't leave disparaging remarks in the comment section. Hello, it's Iris recording the Iris, and I am back with another video. And today I'm going to let my guest introduce you because I don't even want to try to mess up what it is because I was saying polyamory, and that's not quite it. And I got rained on, so if I'm a little wet, I still had to get it done because I have been trying to get to them for the last hour. How are you all doing? Wayne and Melissa, will you please introduce yourself to my According to Iris family?
Hello, everybody. So I'm Wayne. This is my wife, Melissa. Um, I'll introduce myself first. So I recently became a coach for relationships, intimacy, and sex around. I specialize in non-monogamy. I know earlier you said ethically non-monogamy. That's definitely the term that is being used right now. And non-monogamy itself is just the umbrella of so many different dynamics and forms of relationships. And most people know about swinging or they know about polyamory, but there's so many more, but that's just a umbrella of all of those terms that can be, used or understood.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for having us. I'm happy to be here. Any opportunity to talk about what we do.
Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate that. But yes, so similarly, I'm sex positive sex therapist, and also do coaching as well. And together we have Shades of Non-Monogamy, a business that we created. It's called Shades of Non-Monogamy, which is it was created really from our own personal experiences. It's an online space as well as in person as well too. Now that we're not well, quite not out of it either, but we're doing more in-person stuff from the pandemic times because that's kind of where it really started, and we were doing a lot of online virtual stuff and really just developing a lot of community was kind of our focus initially, was just having spaces and opportunities for people to kind of come and connect with other people who had similar perspectives around relationships, which is like, as Wayne kind of talked about, was like can look like so many different things, right? And essentially just not limiting ourselves to one person at one time, being open to what relationships can look like, whether that's motivated by sexual connections or intimate, emotional, romantic connections, whatever the case. I mean, I got so much to say about it, but ultimately, yeah, we both kind of work together as coaches to kind of help guide people, whether it's just saying like, hey, I'm curious, I want to know more about this. I have a lot of feelings around it, but it's something that I'm drawn to or that I'm curious about. Or we're already kind of exploring, we're navigating, we're dealing with some challenges. Can you help guide us? And really, we're just kind of we're support because we went through it, trying to figure it out on our own. It was really taboo, so we kind of also did it, we did it, I don't want to say in secrecy, but we kind of did it alone and really without support and kind of like not really talking about it openly. And relationships are already hard. But then when you say, like, well, we see other people too, and we choose that and it's not behind each other's back or anything like that, it gets kind of complicated. So, anyway, long story,
Yeah,
but
and for me, I'm here to like help to take away some of the
the stigma.
no, the
Yeah.
misunderstandings or
Mm,
the misconceptions
mhm,
around what non-monogamy is. For instance, like we've been together for almost 20 years. Uh, we don't. I don't think that we come across as weird or creepy or any of those type of things. We've been non-monogamous since we first got together. So since day one, we've been non-monogamous. And because I know that people have questions like, well, is it sustainable? Can it last? And we've been together almost 20 years, so it is definitely doable. And like I said, from the very beginning, about one of our first conversations, we decided to move in that direction. So, again, just to give some back. That was just to give some background on
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, we have
Awesome.
so much background, 20 years. So Iris,
I
like we're
know that's awesome.
more than anything, like we really try. We can educate, but that's not really our jam. Like for us, we really just love to share our story. That's really where it's at, and just answer people's curious
it's
questions and
it's
be
really
real here.
interesting because that was one of my things. Like, well, can people really have a meaningful relationship under this dynamic where there are other people?
Mm-hmm.
But let me get one thing because I want to ask this of Melissa. Now, women
Mm-hmm.
would say, oh, she just went along with it because that's
Mm-hmm.
what her husband wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I want to knock that one out because I already know how. What do you have to say when people say, "Oh, you're just there because of him"?
Yeah. Well, again, as I said, I like to share from my own story. So I'm going to kind of take it way back to when we started, almost 20 years ago. And what the conversation that we had when we first met each other, felt very open and transparent, felt very comfortable with Wayne, and he did with me, as he says. And so we really kind of just shared, it started from sharing our past experiences with, our exes at the time or whatnot. And at that time, like I was still quite young, so I was still wanting to explore, be adventurous, like figuring out myself, my sexuality, and just having a good time as well too. And I didn't want to stop that. Like it really kind of just started from there. It was like I want to continue to do this. Like, man, I'm really enjoying this connection. I like you. This feels good. Like I think this could be something, but also there's a part of me that still really wants to explore, still really wants to figure myself out. There are things that maybe I couldn't quite do in the last relationship, or I don't know, whatever the case. And so we had that conversation. And then Wayne, had prior experiences as well that I was very curious. I was like, wow, oh, tell me, like the way that you're kind of curious and everybody, is open. It's like, wait, I want to know about this. I was like that too, just because it felt more like kind of like how maybe you're feeling like, wait, this is a thing. There's a name for it. There's a place to go. There's people like. Okay, and for me, where it was just like I was just kind of I was having a good time or whatnot, just doing things, thinking I'm just being spontaneous, and then here's like a whole community of people or places to go or sex clubs, swing clubs, whatever, relationship dynamics and all that. So I was like, wow, I was interested. So sure, perhaps maybe there was an exposure to it, in a different way, but it was all from genuine curiosity from my point. Now I can't speak for every woman. Sure, there are women who maybe do that, and I really try to kind of like check my judgment on that, you
Mhm.
know. Of course, being a woman and having feelings about, oh, just doing it for the man or whatever. Trust me, I got the same type of, judgments or whatnot, or questions and curiosities about people. But I really try to check my judgment on that because I feel like as long as there's a conversation around that, you know what I mean? It can be an opportunity. Maybe you do kind of follow your husband, whatever. The reality is that there were a lot of times where, one person or the other felt like they weren't getting their needs met in one way or the other, and there maybe was a little bit of a push. And so I think ultimately though, the fact that we kind of like ended up having a conversation about it and saying like, okay, maybe this is not something, I mean, this is not my experience, but maybe this is not something that I kind of automatically want, but I want to be open to this idea, because I think our relationship is great. So again, it's just starting from a conversation. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I also think that society wants to repress the sexuality of women. So
Hmm.
while I might be a serial monogamist, right? My my friends or whoever's around me has a right to express their sexuality how they want to. And as a woman, it's like you're automatically deemed bad or this. All these labels go on women.
Hmm.
So women who maybe want to experience certain things or do certain things will repress themselves in order to not have a partner who's as accepting as yours to allow them to explore those things, if I make any sense.
Absolute sense. It's like, why is it the assumption that the woman can't be the initiator of this, or can't be just like openly wanting this, or yeah, it frustrates me.
And I think that we've met, so what I was able to do for us is I was able to bring language into the conversation when I first met her, because she hadn't heard of, she hadn't looked at monogamy or non-monogamy in that way, and I didn't know much, but I knew there were words that could um, describe what I was looking for, what I wasn't looking for. And then had already had her prior experiences. She was like, "Yeah, let's explore together." And I was like, "Let's do it." But we've met in our lives. We've met a lot of women now that are the ones who are the initiators within these type of relationships now. And they'll say, "Hey, look, this is what I'm looking for. This is not what I want, and here are my boundaries and what I'm open to and not open to."
Hmm.
And so I think that there is a shift, and I think that I agree with you that women have been repressed sexually for so long that now women are starting to understand and say, hey, I don't have to be this way. I'm not a woman, so I'm not speaking for women, but just in my experiences and people I've spoken to, they're like, hey, look, this is what I want. Why can't I be sexually free, or why can't I get the things that I want, or why I'm in control of my
Hmm.
body, why can't I do the things that I want to do with my own body? So, and I am excited about the shift that's happening because it just allows people to truly explore and enjoy relationships in a different way than just accepting what is given to you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a question: jealousy. So, is it that that your relationship or non-monogamous relationships operate without jealousy? Because I would find that hard to believe. Or is it that
Mm-mm.
you learn how to deal with it or find ways to communicate through how you're feeling?
Yeah.
So I'll start now.
Yeah.
So for me, how I see it, jealousy is going to be a part of it, right? It depends on. So how I look at it now is that depends on where I'm at, right? If I'm feeling not good about myself, which I have done plenty of times in my relationship. So I struggle sometimes with things because I'm still human. I still have emotions, and so if I'm not feeling good about myself, may it be the way I look or where I'm at. Career wise, or just down for other reasons, right? Then I can, and if I feel like she's getting something from somebody else that I can't give her in that moment, I may start to feel like, oh wow, she chooses that person over me, but it ultimately comes back to me, right? It's about me feeling good or not good about myself, which again, now this goes a little deeper because this goes into the things that I think that people don't understand sometimes. When I think that a lot of times when people who are non-monogamous are able to be in a non-monogamous relationship, it's because a lot of times they've done a lot of work for themselves, on themselves, which does not usually happen within a monogamous relationship. And not to compare the two, but like there's things now that I would look for if I were to deal with somebody. Like for instance, I would want somebody to have to either is I learned a word the other day, and I can't remember it. You know the
Mm.
word I'm talking about that
Which,
I just told you I love this word. Uh, therapized.
yeah.
Yes, yes. I would need somebody to be therapized if I were to engage with them. That means they either have already had some therapy and doing work, or they're currently doing work. Because I don't want to take on somebody else's baggage,
Mhm.
because you didn't deal with your emotions and now you want me to deal with them, and that's going to be a complicated relationship to work within, and so for me, that comes up for me. But yes, if somebody, I think that a lot of times if someone has done the work already, so when we get into a relationship and jealousy should come up, then you already kind of have the tools to kind of work through your feelings and emotions, and obviously I will be there and vice versa. But a lot of that work still relies within yourself, ultimately, and it's not on me, it's not on her. She can be like, hey, I can kind of see that you're going through something, or I can see that it's not about me, and that is helpful, even though it's still hurts sometimes, or could be, you know, difficult to navigate, but it's still very helpful though. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're not free from jealousy. That's a
so,
simple answer.
so non-monogamy versus polyamory.
hmm
What is the difference?
So again, non-monogamy is just an umbrella, right?
Mm.
Poly is just a form of non-monogamy, that operates under certain rules and boundaries, just like swinging, all those type of things. So it's not that it's different than non-monogamy.
It's a type. It's just a, yeah, specific dynamic. You know, again, non-monogamy, even the word non-monogamy, first of all, I don't like that word. It just sounds so ugly. Like non-monogamy. Can we find a different word? Like, it's so hard to say. But you know, again, non-monogamy really just is, it just means, you know, more than one person at a time, like not limiting ourselves, not limiting our relationship dynamics to one person at a time, right? And so that can literally look like anything. And if we want to use kind of more of the official or technical terms or, you know, whatnot, like polyamory or swinging, and not to dismiss it. I don't want to be dismissive either, but they're just, I think that kind of comes about in terms of being able to kind of like describe what types of relationships and connections I'm looking for and the community that, you know,
Mm.
and kind of what the community looks like. And so for polyamory, stereotypically, generally speaking, you know, there's this idea that polyamory is about, you know, it's about deeper connections. Not again, not to say that that can't happen in any other dynamics, but it is somebody who generally is looking for a relationship, you know, to some extent, or partnership or intimacy, you know, just kind of a more intimate emotional connection, and not just necessarily just focusing on sex, you know, or sexual connection, which like swinging kind of fits more into that box where it's like, hey, look, we want to open ourselves up to, or we want to open ourselves up to having sex with other people, having diverse sexual experiences, but we kind of want to be emotionally monogamous. We want to kind of keep the emotional intimacy, emotional connection relationship, either for myself or for a partnership or whatever, and really just kind of have fun sexually. So, you know, and of course, like with everything, there's a spectrum. There's people in swinging who are still looking for that kind of deeper emotional connection, and vice versa. But kind of just generally speaking, yeah.
So, as you all are dealing with people who are coming to you for advice and guidance, how do you deal with the training process or the support process? How does it exactly work when they're coming, they're struggling, or they're a couple and they're trying to figure this out, and they come to you and they're saying, we don't know where we fall. We don't even,
Mm,
some of them probably don't even know what it is that
mm-hmm.
they're experiencing. How do you go about, like if I was coming or someone was coming as a client, what is the actual process, and why do people typically seek you out?
Yeah. So I think generally, if people are seeking us out or they are coming to us, they kind of have some idea, you know, or feeling or some kind of something that a curiosity of, you know, non-monogamy or kind of wanting to explore that or being curious. But it kind of, so in terms of coaching, I think it would just kind of just be, again, a conversation with them, chatting, kind of just figuring out where are they? Are they kind of just curious, just talking about it, like heard some things, you know, want to get to know more about what it is, that they have questions. Yeah, they're looking more for education or information or resources, or just kind of like, yeah, knowing more. There's that. Then there's people, again, like I said, who come in and they're like, more than just curious, more than just wanting information. They want to kind of start to explore their own thoughts and beliefs and possibilities around it. You know, I think what comes up in that stage is like, oh man, there's a lot of inner conflict. It's like, I feel drawn to it, I'm interested in it, but then also like, I don't really know what it is. I don't know any different, or these are the things that are kind of holding me back from it. And so we can maybe explore some of the challenges or the blocks or whatever the beliefs that are kind of coming up for them, whatever inner conflicts. Then there's people who are like, okay, we kind of figured it out. We talked about it. I think this is something we want to try. Where the hell do we start? And most people kind of come in there like, where do
Yeah.
we start? Like, there's so much. Like, oh my gosh, and we want to get into it. We want to start doing the things. Like, how do we meet people? What type of agreements should we do? Should we not do agreements? And so we kind of, you know, help to organize their experience and like, you know, just give them a path or
I'm sorry, what is
Yeah.
an agreement?
what is an agreement. So for instance, there's this agreement, I guess I'm speaking to people who are already in a relationship and maybe they decide to kind of open up their relationship. Of course, all of us can still have agreements, personal boundaries. Essentially, it's a boundary, right? Essentially, it's like, here is what my partner and I have agreed that this will look like, what is okay, what's not okay, what we're open to, what we're not open to. And these are the agreements that we've come up with. And ideally, you'd like to share those agreements with other people who you're getting involved with
Yes.
so they kind of can know, they have an idea, they are able to say yes, like, okay, cool, I'm cool with those agreements. Like I can work with that, or like, no, that's not for me. I'm not looking for that. I want more, I want less, whatever the case. So
Yeah.
yeah, again, there's so many different things. There's so many. It can be quite overwhelming when you are starting to kind of exploring opening up your relationship, or you're not in a relationship and you just kind of want to explore that for yourself. Where do you begin? So we kind of give them some tips or some highlights, or like, okay, these are some things to consider. Here's where you can start. And then again, some people come in because they're already in it and they have a lot of challenges. They're dealing with jealousy, they're dealing with broken agreements, they're dealing with changes and transitions and other partnerships and managing and all that stuff. So we kind of really just, again, we're here for education. We're here for that emotional support, to really validate their experience. We're here for community to let them know like they're not alone. They have a space. They don't have to hide. They don't have to try to figure it out on their own. And we kind of give them just real life practical, tips and tools and resources and whatnot to help. So,
Yeah, yeah, because I know like one of the questions, like if one person comes in and they're open to things and want to try things the other person isn't, a lot of times what happens is we try to everything is scary when you don't understand or know about it, but when you start to show people, give people a better understanding and start to learn about things, people tend to start to relax more. They start to see things aren't as scary as they thought they were. Because just off when you just hear about it, it's like, oh no, I would never do that. But you would be surprised that once people start having a conversation, how many people will be open to things. And I always say that I believe if we were given at a younger age options of types of relationships that we can be in, everybody wouldn't choose the same type of relationship all the time because it's just not beneficial to everybody. We're all different people, and that's why I love doing I love doing the front loading. I love helping couples who come in and just help them in the beginning to try to start to work through a lot of the things up front so that way you can relax within the back end of your relationship, start because it's a lot of things you don't talk about when you first come into a relationship that people feel like, oh, it's too much or I shouldn't talk about that, but those are things you should be talking about, right? Because now you actually are informed about the person you're dealing with and what they really want and what they're looking for, and so it doesn't come up later and it becomes a problem. So
hmm.
yeah.
So, have you ever dealt with situations where does this work if the relationship is one sided? So, for instance, a lot of women have experienced situations where they're being cheated on by a spouse. Not to say women don't cheat, but a
Yeah.
lot of times, if you hear most talking points, you're going to hear women saying that their man is basically unethically non-monogamous because he's making her believe that he's monogamous, but he's not.
Hmm.
um is there a way this can work where people are just honest? And have you ever seen a situation where a man might go out or the woman might, but another partner doesn't, they don't both engage in non-monogamy and it work?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm he might have a different answer. I'm kind of a idealist. I like to think everything is possible. That's just me. So let me start right there. I like to think everything is possible, and I really do think it is, if depending on the people who are together, like if that is something that you want and you want to try for, I do think it is possible. Is it easy? No. Does it take a lot of work? Yes. Does it take a lot of check-ins? Does it take a lot of introspection and trying to figure out why is it that I want to do these things? What interests me in non-monogamy? What am I trying to get out of it? Am I willing to do this openly and transparently, or I rather kind of do it off to the side or not really talk about it or whatever the case. And so I do think it is. Well, not I do think it is.
But
People
let her
are
know the terms,
constantly,
yeah.
huh?
Let her know the terms,
The terms of what?
like when people are in a relationship, they're solo and mono and
Oh
within
no, I
yeah.
know. I was just talking about in terms of like doing it ethically or
Yeah.
not. Like I think it's already existing.
Hmm.
So it's not a question. It's already existing. but also I don't want to like romanticize non-monogamy either and make it seem like, oh, non-monogamy is the answer and you'll never have any issues or problems or breakups or anything like that, because that's not the case. At the end of the day, the relationship's like any other relationship, just like monogamy, and so I just think that there's just a lot more space for flow of a relationship versus it has to be like this, it needs to look like this, these are the expectations and the roles, and then anything outside of that is looked down upon or frowned upon or whatever the case, which does end up leading to cheating or, secrecy or things like that, or shame and guilt, and then the behavior, like then you have behavior that's just like, damn, this is not working for a relationship. So it is, but it's challenging because then it forces you to be honest with yourself and like, well, I kind of do like other people. I kind of am interested in this person, but again, that challenges even our own kind of inner beliefs and whatnot, so that we kind of got to decide, like, do we want us to hold on to this or not. But to the point about like, can one person be monogamous, another person be non-monogamous? Yeah, is it more challenging? Yes, it could be definitely more challenging, but I think it's possible. And the point that I think about is like, Esther Perel, she's a relationship therapist, and she talks about this, but how we are coming from this place, this I guess this paradigm of relationships where it's like we get into relationships for romance, for love, you know what I mean? And it's like, ooh, but things are changing. It's different. Like there's so many reasons why now people are getting into relationships. And it's not for me to judge why, if that's good or bad or here or the other, but I do think that the times are changing, and I think it is viable for people to say, like, okay, well, you know what? We're best friends. Like, we've been looking for love. Like, why don't we just try to? I mean, that's one example that's not specific to non-monogamy, but just that there's so many different dynamics kind of happening. Maybe because it is for practical reasons, and it's not for romance and love. And I think that's totally fine too. Again, as long as two people, they're coming together, they're talking about it, they're like, I want to get this need met. I feel like we could do it together, we could be open and honest about it. Let's do it. And then one person might be like, well, that's not really for me, but also, damn, I'm really enjoying you. I feel good with you. And I don't want to stop you from, whatever. Like I don't want to stop you from your explorations. But I truly genuinely feel like we work well as a team together and we do really genuinely love each other. It's just not for me. I think it's not as common, but it can definitely happen.
I only ask because, like I said, it seems to be happening a lot and more
Hmm.
often than people want to have a conversation about. Usually due to oftentimes mismatching drives, um,
Yeah.
issues in the relationship, being together long periods of time.
Yep.
From my vantage point, it's difficult to comprehend how people can function through it. Um, However, I'm also expanding my knowledge enough in doing interviews with people and seeing that there are so many different ways to live life, to love, to exist in the world. And how do you get someone who is living in this heteronormative, monogamous normative society to exist under a non-monogamous relationship with the eyes of people and the judgment? Like I
Hmm.
don't judge anybody. If your relationship works, y'all been together longer than I've been successful. You know what I'm saying? So who am I to judge if it works for you? But people will throw up their nose quickly, and a lot of people are restrained because they can't live truthfully.
Right, right. And the funny thing is that I always say that, you know, no ma- there's a lot of people walking around who are in non-monogamous relationships today, whether they know it or not. you know so to judge somebody when we all when we all know at least two people right now who are cheating or who are being cheated on, right? So that's a lot of people, because we all know a lot of people and all those people know people. So it's coming from somewhere. So why not try to understand? Like for me, it's more about, I wanted to try to understand why was it not working. Like, why are things the way they are? And I realized that I think that we have this idea that we get with this relationship, and this person is supposed to be our everything, right? They're supposed to provide all these needs for us. which is that's a lot of pressure and expectations, which cause a lot of problems within itself, and so like for me, like it won't, like I only talked to her for the longest time, and I realized I was just throwing up on her and all the time on a regular, and she was having to deal with all the things I had because I had nobody else to talk to, and that's not fair to her, right? Because we're in a relationship together, we have our own things that we deal with together, and now she got to deal with everything I got, outside of her, and so when I started to think about all these things, and I was like, man, like we could all use other things outside of that for instance, like she don't like scary movies. So am I not to watch a scary movie for the rest of my life because she doesn't like scary movies,
I
right?
don't
Because
like.
I want to go to right, I want to go to the movie theater and watch a scary movie, right? It's the experience of it, right? I don't want to go by myself to a scary movie and sit down. So so then again, like these things that once we start to understand they are not as scary as we believe them to be, because you start to see that, oh wow, like I get to do this thing that I still enjoy, when she gets to do this thing she still enjoys, just because we're in a relationship doesn't stop us from being who we are. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that new relationship energy where you go and it's so loving and so exciting and oh my God, and we're going to love each other forever, which we know that's not sustainable because we all change. Right. But then that's the hard part, because when things change, now it's like, oh, we can't be together anymore because we don't have that exciting, you don't give me
The same.
butterflies anymore. So
Mm.
this person at work though excite the hell out of me, but not understanding we're gonna go through the same thing over and over again, right? It's gonna just go. It's a different person, but it's gonna be the same result because we haven't worked on ourselves at this point, right? And we don't understand that's not how relationships actually work. So again, it's just a lot of inner work, and understanding, and just expanding the mind to see that there's so many possibilities, and it doesn't have to look just one way, In that way, I think now is people are starting to see that way may not be as as easy to navigate as it used or accepted as it used to be, right? Because before we had to accept it. Today we don't have to accept these things. We have options. We have choices. And if I can be myself and be my true authentic self, then I can choose another way. Then man, let me figure out what I like, what I want, and let me find somebody who's open to the things that I want and like, and we can get together, and that could be a great relationship because as things start to change, because somebody always say, they ask a question like, are you worried about your partner leaving you for somebody else? And so I've come to the understanding that it's not just gonna happen like that. She's not just gonna wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm out, like,
But
I met
okay, but
somebody, yeah, I met
question.
somebody, I'm out.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you are an attractive couple. She is a drop dead gorgeous woman.
Yes, she
Y'all
is.
are attractive. Nobody has ever come in and tried to split it up or steal one of you out of your marriage.
So that's the thing, right? Because how we show up to other people, it doesn't even allow that room. Even if they did try that, it would be okay because that's that human, and they would try that. And it's on us to be like, hey, look,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm open to, or that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
You
people have
know.
never tried to like break us up or take us away from each other, but have they um has somebody felt threatening or to the relationship or kind of challenging to the relationship? Yes, that's the honest truth. But also that's because of what we had going on or where we were feeling, where we were struggling or whatever the case, or what we allowed or didn't allow or whatnot. It really wasn't about that. And even if it was, even if the person did come in intentionally, nobody has intentionally tried to challenge or threaten our relationship. That just I kind of just think that we tend to attract really cool people
Yeah.
and good people,
Yeah.
and that's,
And,
but
and again,
nobody's
and
really
how we
tried to,
show up.
and how we show up, yeah, and nobody's intentionally tried to do that. But even unintentionally that can still happen, or it can still
Hmm.
feel that way, right?
Yeah.
But I think we put in the work to be able to recognize that, and it didn't come right away, but eventually we recognize like it's not even about the other people. It's never really about the other people. It's if there's any kind of threat to the relationship or anything, then we got to go back to the drawing table. We got to go back and sit down and talk about what's coming up for us, what's going on, why is there feel like there's this kind of like space or disconnect or
Hmm.
hole where this other person is kind of what is this person bringing up for us, and ultimately that's what happens. Like, what is this person exposing and uprooting in our relationship for us
Yeah.
that we get to now talk about, so
And you want to get to a point in your relationship to where, like, if I am feeling some kind of way, I can come to her and be like, hey, look, I don't feel like I'm getting the thing that I'm looking for, what I need from you. And so this is, what can we do? How can we figure this out? And so again, it's not going to ever be like, oh man, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm leaving
Mm.
today, because we would already that those conversations would already have happened to prevent that from even getting to that space like that,
Mm.
like, or you want to hope that it does. And that's what the good thing is, 15 years ago, there was nobody out here to help people who were in a situation or position that we were in. So now we've experienced so much and we've been through so much that we have the information, the understanding. We have the understanding of what people deal with and go through. So that's what makes it so much easier for us to help people recognize with what's going on within their relationship and help them, because we've already most likely experienced most things,
Mm.
right? And we're probably still experiencing things sometimes, and so that even makes us even that much more able to help people when they're
Yeah,
going
what
through
I
things.
think is the most interesting about this as I'm talking to you is I'm a communication specialist. If you don't know, I'm a communication scholar. And communication is key to relationships being sustained. And it's like you all have extremely healthy communication. And therefore, like when you say no one can really do that because you all are already a unit and you're communicating effectively. So therefore, everyone, when I hear you say things like an agreement, like all relationships should have that, but you would think in a dynamic like yours it would be so difficult, and it just seems so easy because it's rooted in a certain level of honesty, transparency, and allowing each other to exist even if other people, whatever, we're good in our thing. So many people spend time in other people's relationships that
Yeah,
their relationship isn't dynamic, isn't strong. And what I'm witnessing, which is a relationship that is so rooted, that is so connected, and most people think it would be divided.
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you handle the misconceptions of what people think it is? Like,
Yeah.
we feel like that the relationship would be loose, and maybe
It's
I'm
what
wrong,
you
but I'm watching
said.
something
You
that
said
looks
it.
so tight.
right. So
Yeah.
so so I'll let her answer in a second. I just want to real quick something else you said. So I feel like a lot of times, and this isn't to bash monogamy, but I think that monogamous relationships don't allow for you to be honest. Like, is in sense of like, hey, it's this person at work that I'm not gonna lie. I think they're really cute. I enjoy flirting with them. You can't come home and say that. But it's the truth though, because we spend more time at work than we do at home. So sometimes those things happen. But you can't come home and talk about that. So now you got to hold that in. You can't share that, or and that in itself, right, turns to something else because you can't share it, you can't express it, right? So now other things start to develop and build up because of that inability to express yourself within that relationship. So which causes other, it's a domino effect,
Because
right?
I could
And
almost
so,
hear my girl. He disrespected me. He came home and told me that the
right,
girl at work was cute.
right,
Like he
or
does,
or
like, or like she said, he was this person was handsome. Like people become blind once they get in a
or
relationship.
or or,
Hmm.
or imagine you go out to the bar tonight, and some guys, and then he makes you feel good, and whatever. So then you come home with that energy and you give it to your husband, and he's like, "Oh, you different tonight." Like, and now you can't even express to him why you have this energy tonight, because that would be a problem within your strict, well, not strict, your monogamous relationship, under the structure, or guise of a monogamous
Hmm.
relationship. So again, in these type of things, when you talk about communication, it's I think that communication sometimes is used pretty loosely, right? Oh, communicate. And I think it's the type of communication that happens, right? The understanding that you have for yourself and the ability that you have, like a lot of times it causes for me as a man to have to be vulnerable with my emotions and feelings so she can understand, and that's scary, right? Because you don't want to give somebody those things and have them weaponize them against you, right? And so it's again, I have to trust her intentions, right? So now I know that her intentions are not to hurt me, they are not to mislead me, or to do things to me that she knows that I would not be okay with. And if they happen, it's not intentional, it's because of
It's not
whatever she's
intentional.
going through or dealing with. And so as long as it's not intentional, then we can work through whatever that happens between us, because she understands that I'm not intentionally hurting her and she's not intentionally hurting me. So yeah.
And I think the conversation about opening up or non-monogamy or things that challenge us or jealousy even is not even it's not even always about another person or about sex or about emotional connections or relationships or things like that, in terms of like somebody that we're interested in sexually or whatnot. Like these conversations in monogamous relationships too come up. Like I'm trying to think of some examples of just how much time we spending with our friends, you know what I mean? Or the whole idea of jealousy, the challenge of jealousy comes up already in monogamous relationships, of how much time you're spending at work, like Wayne said, or how much time you're spending with friends, or do we do this much together or do or not do this much? How much autonomy is in our relationship? And so what I like about the concept of non-monogamy, and I like to talk about it as a kind of a concept, you know, using it as a framework to talk about relationships versus like this is what it is, this is what it should be, because I'm not I'm an advocate for non-monogamy because that's what the life that we live, and because there's so many people out there who need support and community and space. Like we
Right.
we need, there's so much centering around monogamy that a lot of people kind of feel just lost and whatnot without the community and support. But really at the end of the day, it's not about, and I say this in every interview, it's not about monogamy or non-monogamy for us, for me, like, or for the work that we do with people. Honestly, monogamous people can come to us and we're going to get, they're still going to benefit just as much. We're going to have the same conversations because the idea of opening up, I like it's not just opening up to more sex or to more relationships or whatever. It's really opening ourselves up to expanding our ideas, our beliefs, our mindsets, to challenging ourselves around what are our values and beliefs around relationships in general. Honestly, it's just opening ourselves up to how we relate to people and how we are in relationship with people. That is the basis of all of this. And with that, we start to ask ourselves questions. Where did I get this belief from? Do I want to keep this, or do I want to kind of challenge it, or do we want to change it up, or do we want to do something different? And that is for monogamy too. So non-monogamy, I think, or the communities, the work that's been done, the research, what all that, what it offers is just kind of like they kind of have already a set framework or ideas or research that you we get to all kind of use and pull from, you know. And not to say that monogamy doesn't have that as well, but like I said, even in monogamous relationships, like these same conversations should be had. It's okay if you choose monogamy, but are you choosing it? It's okay if you choose monogamy, but what does it look like? Still, at the end of the day, there's agreements in monogamous relationships too. What does your relationship look like? One book that I think it can really be helpful. Sorry to be all in the camera like this, but
You're fine.
um, I thought I had it right here. But oh, here's a good one. Is I just want to show it to you. Ethical Slut. Okay, and this is called Ethical Slut: A Practical Guide to Polyamory, Open Relationships, and Other Adventures. But what I like about it is it really gets into kind of these ideas about rethinking sex, rethinking relationships, denial versus fulfillment, pleasure, like the concept of pleasure. What's our relationship with pleasure? That is so important in our relationships because the relationship we have with pleasure, that shows up in a relationship with another person. Do we deny ourselves? Do we repress? Do we have to make sure that we're doing all of these things and then we can have pleasure? You know, I don't know. There's so many conversations to be had, and
Just think of the words guilty pleasure. Why does it have to be guilty pleasure? Why can't it just be pleasurable experience or pleasurable? You know, and we don't promote pleasure enough in our society. We tell people they're like, it's more so like nah, you shouldn't be doing that, or nah, like again, it's restricting all of us in a sense, right, from things that we enjoy doing, and so it's more so being accepting who you are and allowing yourself to enjoy life and not be restricted or held back. Like
mm,
I'm sure if everybody asked themselves, what would like what is there what are some things that I would actually really want to experience in life? What is it? What would I want to? What makes me feel the idea of something? What about just the idea of something? Like, oh, that idea sounds amazing.
mhm.
Like just allow yourself those thoughts without guilting yourself or feeling shameful about those thoughts, because a lot of times a lot of shame and guilt comes up with the idea of pleasure.
Which brings up a good point about that. Also, another idea is that even in non-monogamy, there's often a centering of relationships of a
Yes.
couple, right? So there's this idea, this pressure of like you should even be in a relationship, and I don't necessarily believe that for
Right.
everybody. Like I don't, I think that is even a choice. You know what I mean? I don't think the end game, the end goal is to be in this long term relationship or to be in this like official whatever relationship at all. To me, I value connection. I value connections with people over this relationship. I can choose, I choose relationship. I choose to be in a relationship with Wayne, and we call it a thing and we do this thing, you know, but ultimately I'm really guided by the connections, the feelings that I have with people. And I think just, you know, there's so much pressure again for what it needs to look like.
Yeah.
And in polyamory, there's even like solo polyamory where it's like, well, I choose me, I'm my partner. Like I'm kind of my partner, and then I open myself up to connections with other people. And, you know, but also that doesn't necessarily mean that we're moving in, that we're having kids together. We're always like, again, those are all kind of like things that we get to decide.
Yeah, and there's also relationships where one person relationship may be poly and the other person relationship may be monogamous. Those relationships exist as well, you know, and it's just, you know, they figured out how to navigate within that space, you know. I know sometimes, I know people probably don't ask, well, you know, it's easy to do, you know, if it's just you two, what about kids? Well, we have kids together. You know, we have 3 kids together and we have one on the way, you know, and so again, we understand our dynamic, and we are learning, and we've learned and still are learning how to navigate within the relationship that we want for ourselves and with one another. So, you know, I think that again, anything is possible, right? It's all depends on you, what you want, but you have to first be honest with yourself. And I think that's the hard part, right? Most people go into relationships and they aren't really honest with themselves, and hence then now comes the cheating and
Hmm.
all the other things that come behind that, you
And
know.
so people who come to us, I'd like to think that we provide this open space, you know, where they could freely kind of just explore. Like even if just in conversations, like, you know, I thought about this and I
Yeah,
want to like, and really that's it. At
yeah,
the end of the day, I was like, we just want to help people just have fulfilling, good feeling, pleasurable relationships.
yes.
And sometimes that really just starts with ourselves. Yeah, or all the time. I know that's
Yeah.
it starts with ourselves. And if we can even just make space for somebody to explore just within themselves without having to do anything about it or make decisions or anything like that, that's a win.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for offering an alternate perspective that's not really altered. I hate those kind of things. It's something different. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
we try to box everybody into these neat little packages, and everybody has to do the same things. And when people don't, people are violently judgmental. So to finish it out, how do you deal with people who are religious or who are judgmental, who come at you in negative ways, or who I just did an interview with one of my former students who has transitioned, and she was saying that people will ask you a question simply to attack your way of life or your way of being. How do you deal with those things? How do you exist openly? Because I clearly you're not hiding your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um, how do you just go about your lives and not tune out what everybody else says? Because a lot of people don't have strength to do that in any aspect of their life. They're performing for everyone else rather than living in their truth.
So for me, I would say I used to want all the smoke. I want to argue with everybody. I want to engage, and I'm gonna bring all my facts and statistics and you know and research but honestly, like I don't need to argue with anybody. Listen, if you want to argue, if you come to me just to argue, I probably won't even engage. I won't even have a conversation with anybody. Like it's all good. You know, like you can believe what you want to believe, because what I understand is that it's not even about me, right? It's about whatever they dealing with and going through. And apparently I am now making them feel uncomfortable, right? Because of the choices I've made for whatever reason, you know,
People are
maybe they
so
feel
concerned with other people's lives.
right, because they worried about their partner wanting to be or wanting to engage like me or whatever, like so, yeah, or for whatever reason, right? And so I understand that, and I know it's not personal. So for me, I'm not going to engage. So yeah, if you're super, if you you know you come with religion and
So
oh,
stay
you know
out of
this
the
and that,
comments, people.
yeah,
Stay out the
yeah, yeah,
comments.
yeah, yeah.
They don't
Yeah, I want,
care. They don't
yeah,
care. Okay,
exactly,
just
yeah,
stay on
yeah,
out the comments.
yeah,
We don't
yeah,
need your opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in short, like, yeah, at the end of the day, we're gonna do what we're gonna do regardless. It's still gonna, our lives are still gonna go on. We're still gonna, live
yeah,
the way that we live. We have beautiful, I mean, we don't have to prove anything to anybody, you know. We have great people around us, and it feels really good. And so again, there's nothing to prove.
yeah,
At the same time, I have to acknowledge that personally, Wayne and I, we do have a privilege to be able to be out and to be open and to share. And I don't take that for granted. I don't want to take that lightly. Not everybody has the privilege to be able to do that for various reasons. And, for us personally, hence why we do what we do, because we do have the privilege and we've grown to that. We didn't like always, this is
yeah,
something we've
yeah,
created for ourselves as well too. We didn't just automatically have that privilege. We kind of like opened ourselves up for it and wanted that, because we weren't this open. We weren't always this open,
yeah,
but that work kind of started outside of even just relationships. Like we in relationship together started to question our ideas about education. We started to question our ideas about business. We started to question our ideas about money. And so in all places of our, and like all parts of our lives, have found ourselves kind of like going against the grain, challenging, questioning, like, how do we want to do it? So ultimately, yeah, we've kind of just built up the thickness of like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna do what we're gonna do. So,
So if
but I'm
somebody
always
wants to,
open.
so if
Yeah, I
somebody
was just saying, I'm always open though to people who genuinely don't understand, and like maybe even if they do come from a religious background, I'm always open to welcoming a conversation and sharing, even if we kind of just like, okay, cool, well, we still don't understand it, but we had a cool conversation around it. Like, I'm cool with that, and I'm open to it because, yeah, at
So if
the end
someone
of the
wanted
day,
to reach out to you, I'm going to put your contact information in the link, but just on camera, can you let them know how to reach out to you if they wanted to reach out for you for what's the count? Is it counseling, or is it marital
it's
counseling,
coaching. Yeah, just
relationship coaching?
coaching. Yeah.
or therapy.
I mean, a therapy
Yeah,
too. Yeah, a therapy would be, I don't know, kind of more deeper, going into past, like, maybe there was some trauma, or maybe there's, past relationship trauma stuff or whatever, and, maybe needs a little bit deeper attention and work. But if you're not trying to do all that and you just want some guidance and some support around, it would be coaching. But best way to reach us is through our website, shadesofnonmonogamy.com. I know that's kind of long, but shadesofnonmonogamy.com. And on our website has all of our social media links where you can follow us. We share. You can schedule a consultation call. It's a free consultation call with us, to see how we can help you. There's individual coaching available,
yeah.
and what else?
And also, so I'm in school full time as well to become a therapist as well. But we also, like, I run a men's group. I'm running
Mhm.
one actually tonight at 7 o'clock
7
Pacific time.
Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific time. Sorry, Pacific time. I run my group every other Tuesday. Also, we do a meet and greet every last Friday of the month.
In Los
Uh,
Angeles, for those
yeah,
who are in
Los
Los
Angeles.
Angeles.
Yeah, for people in Los Angeles. So my men's group is virtual, so that's anybody can join. It's free right now. Every other Tuesday. She does a women's group on Sundays. So we're building community. We're offering things right now to just
Can they
kind of
get the information about the men's group
All
on
on the
all
the
of that,
website?
website.
all of that.
Hmm.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
Yeah,
thank
just
you
reach
all
out to
so
us.
much.
yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you so much for sharing. Please reach out, everyone. Again, this is Iris from According to Iris, living my life according to me. Hopefully, to inspire you to live your life according to you. Thanks
That's
Yes.
again, Wayne
right.
and Melissa.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.